Okay.
So Terrence, do you want to give us a bit of an introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Okay, sure. So my name is Terrence Ho. Thank you for having me. So I've been I would consider myself at this moment a business coach and accessibility consultant. I've worked with different organizations in the last 3 years that focuses either on services, products related to accessibility, mainly focused in Toronto. Because I don't know, for those that will jump on the call, are they like kind of all over?
Yeah, they're all over.
Mainly North America though, right?
Mainly North America, yeah.
Okay, so like Canada and the US.
Right.
Yeah, so most of the organizations that I've worked with provides products or services mainly in Ontario.
Right.
And part of the reason why I got into the space is personal experiences. I have a younger brother that lives with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and also a younger cousin who lives with Down syndrome. And growing up with both my brother and my cousin, I noticed and we experienced together the barriers of accessing healthcare services or just other opportunities that that I just witnessed and experienced together, and hence my interest of working in this space of accessibility and using technology as a way to enable people. So that's a bit about me in a nutshell.
Right.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
in the email, I think you said you weren't with Novalte anymore. Is that correct?
So yeah, I was working with Novalte as their head of operations, and what Novalte does is they provide a technology platform, which is a smart home technology system to enable individuals with limited mobility to have control over the environment that the person lives in.
Right.
So the critical components that the system offers is things like, for example, hospital beds are not smart, correct? Right. So the company has developed a controller that then makes a hospital bed smart and then allows the individual to use voice or a single switch to then control that hospital bed.
Right. Okay.
Or a automatic door opener, which again, typically is not smart. There's a controller that the company manufactures that then allows the individual to use voice or a single button to then open an automatic door. And the other additional items that the company provides is things like a media controller, which allows the person to control the TV, anything using infrared, to then control using voice or using a single switch button. So that is the basis of the platform. The other piece that is the added value in terms of service wise is that because all these devices is connected to a hub that the company provides, the company is able to monitor and also troubleshoot on the client's behalf. Because what happens with a lot of smart tech or technology just in general is that they could break easily, right? So with the service, after the person gets the system and installs it, then the company is able to monitor and make sure that if anything goes wrong with the technology, the company can fix it likely remotely, or then they could just send a technician to the person's home to do any of these fixes. So that's what the company offers. The price range for a product like this, depending on how many components that you need, right? So within the home, like if you want to control your door, your TV, lights even, like if you want the full Monty, it could range anywhere between the packages that, at least when I was there, ranges between about 5,000 to about 6,500.
And is that something that you could get partially or fully covered by healthcare or something, or insurance, or
So that's a great question. So the clients that we work with, they do go through different sources of funding. So there are multiple sources of funding. So one would be through insurance. If the client perhaps like experienced like an injury through an accident, they were able to buy the system using insurance to cover the cost. Whereas we have the company had other clients that went through other sources of funding, such as, say, ODSP, and something within ODSP called the discretionary expenses that would cover partial cost of the system.
And for people listening, ODSP is just the provincial equivalent of whatever you might have in your city or state.
Exactly, thank you. Yeah, and it stands for the Ontario Disability Support Program.
Right.
So that's one source of funding that would cover part of it. Others will go to March of Dimes Canada. And March of Dimes Canada has a home vehicle modification program fund, which people can also apply to because it is a modification of the home, right? To get a smart home system like this, which could also cover the cost. And then we also have the company also has other clients that have gone through, for example, if someone lives with muscular dystrophy, would go through Muscular Dystrophy Canada, or cerebral palsy, the Cerebral Palsy Foundation. So going directly to the organizations that support that individual's requirements.
So sorry to interrupt. So if we're talking in Canada, somebody who had these needs should probably approach Ataxia Canada first. And I guess in the US, National Ataxia Foundation. In
Correct.
the UK, Ataxia UK. And then they could probably help further direct their inquiries, right?
Exactly. So the interesting thing about like smart home technology is that, for a system like this, how the company is like pitching it allows organizations like the March of Dimes and all these other foundations and charitable organizations to fund it. However, if the cost is great and the individual may not have access to funding from these organizations, there are alternatives in a sense, because keep in mind we're living in a time where smart home technology is actually quite accessible and affordable, right?
Yeah, we should probably clarify what you mean by smart technology for some people. So let's take the example of, say, a wheelchair. Could you have a smart wheelchair?
So at this moment, I would say no. There are no smart wheelchairs.
So let's take the example you gave before of the garage door opener.
Yeah, right? Like the automatic door opener. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What is the difference between a regular garage door opener and, say, a smart garage door opener?
Great question. So what's considered a smart device would be that it is connected to Wi-Fi, so the wireless connectivity within your home, or via Bluetooth.
Right.
So that would be considered a smart device that is controllable, that's within your home.
Because it's communicating with, say, the manufacturer or whatever. It's feedback and upgrades and whatever.
Exactly. So it's connected to a system that's within your home that then communicates with, say, the service provider or manufacturer via the internet.
Right.
That's not always the case, because there are some Bluetooth smart devices which only communicates via, say, like your phone with that device. So in this instance, there would be automatic door openers that, like through Novalte, the individuals can get a smart door opener because the company manufactures like a control that makes it smart. But then there could be other things that may be very simple, like a light bulb or turning on the TV, that an individual wants. So for example, with my brother's case, prior to me joining the company, I actually set up a smart home system for my brother, just using off-the-shelf things that people can just buy at Best Buy or Amazon, right? And the cost in totality may not be that great, depending on what's required, right, and what the individual wants. But it's only when you go into more specialized things like a hospital bed or a automatic door opener that you would require to go to more specialized companies like Novalte. And there are other companies too that exist that make smart home devices for these like specialty type products.
Right.
But if the individual, for example, like Mark, I noticed you have some like ceiling lights and you want to control them, say using your voice, you could go to like Best Buy and buy yourself a Google Home or Amazon Echo or a Apple Home, right? And then you
But they would have to be smart lights, though.
You would have to get smart light bulbs,
Right.
right? Or if you have floor lamps, you could get smart plugs, right? Like right now I have some of these like Bluetooth smart plugs right beside me, right? And essentially these could be then controlled via my phone, right? And Wi-Fi smart plugs look very similar to this too. So someone can just plug in their lamp or plug in their coffee maker, right? And then via their voice, they would be able to control whatever is connected to this smart plug, right? So in my brother's instance, he's able to say control the lights in his room, the TV in the living room. He could also control the temperature within the home because there's also smart thermostats, right? So via just using smart technology, it really enabled and empowers someone like my brother, just using off-the-shelf devices.
Right. So basically having, say, one of those outlets, if I plug the coffee maker in it, but the coffee maker itself is not a smart device, just because it's plugged into that that special outlet, it would allow me to control it using, say, Google Voice or...
So with that example, a coffee maker, I would say there may be only certain, so there's, I guess, two types, right? There's a really basic coffee makers where there's the on and off button.
Yeah.
And then there's actually some companies now starting to make smart coffee, like coffee machines where I think it's Wi-Fi enabled and you can use your phone to then turn on, right? But with let's just say you do end up just getting like a smart plug and the basic coffee maker, huge caveat here, right? Like it is possible where you could just leave the power on, right? For the really simple on and off coffee makers and just turn it on and off with your smart plug.
Right.
But I would highly recommend just doing a check to make sure that it's compatible, right? Yeah. And in the US and also starting in Canada now too, is Best Buy offers a service called, it's called Geek Squad in the US, right? But essentially they provide smart home and assistive technology support services. Because in the US, they recognize the growing aging population, right? In need of smart home technologies and also assistive tech, including even like hospital beds and all that. So in the US, for those that are from the US, you could look into the Best Buy services. In Canada, they actually just launched in BC. I can't remember the name specifically, but maybe I'll send you to the link afterwards. But again, similar. It's a Best Buy service offering for people that uses assistive technologies, right, at home and smart home technologies at home. And they would be able to provide in-home support services. So you would pay like a monthly fee and you could call them at any time if you have technical support. So not only will they come and like make sure your computer is working and your smartphone is working, but also if you have an automatic door opener that just needs to be maintained, or you have a smart home device like a Google Home that needs to be checked. So Best Buy now in BC offers that services too. Even though it may be targeted to the aging market, but it is applicable to anyone that has like different access requirements.
Have you ever had any clients that are people that have ataxia?
A great question. At the time that I would say, actually, no. Most of our clients are either, or most of the clients the company was working with, either lived with cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, and some, I believe, even like stroke, right? So we didn't work with anyone with ataxia while I was there.
Okay. Right.
Not to say that it won't be applicable.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very useful. And I had a question. I forgot it.
I'll come back.
Now you have a nonprofit that you're working on, I believe, Equal Grounds. You want to maybe talk about that and how you got involved with it and everything like that?
Sure. So with Equal Grounds, really the problem that we were tackling was when my brother graduated from college, and this was many years ago now, or feels like many years ago. After graduating from college, he was having trouble finding work. So part of it was his own, I would say his own narratives of why he can't do what he did, like what he was trained to do. And then part of it was just, I guess, there's like a fear that he was like unwilling to like go out and do his interviews and all that, right?
Yeah. Right.
And so after, it was maybe about a year or two after he graduated, I just asked my brother, his name's Terrence, I just asked him, like, what would be like a dream job of yours? And his initial answer to me was, well, I want to be an NHL goaltender because he loves playing hockey. He plays power wheelchair hockey. And we both laughed because we knew that physically it wasn't possible. So I said, well, what's the second like dream job that you would have? So he said like writing. I was like, okay, cool. What do you want to write about? And he's like, okay, I want to write about his like sports and like his own involvement in power wheelchair hockey. And so we started off with that one project. And then from there, as Torrance started that project, a lot of our friends also graduated from university, college, some with double degrees from university, started approaching us and said, hey, like, I see what you guys are doing. Like, can we participate too? And I was like, yeah, of course. Like, and really, that was the first project that enabled us to start creating different other projects related to creating meaningful work. Because a lot of our friends are all on ODSP, it's difficult to find employments where it doesn't eat into the ODSP, right?
Yeah.
So, and because a lot of companies don't, for whatever reasons that they have, right, are not hiring. So the type of work that our friends are able to get aren't enough to say eradicate ODSP. So we mainly focus on creating meaningful work and creating opportunities for our friends to build a portfolio for themselves, right? So that they could then go and look for other work. So we had projects related to writing. So we have a platform called Enables Me that allowed all our friends and other contributors to write lived experience and reporting on other stories. We did AODA consulting, where we hired individuals that have lived experiences to go into companies to do the assessments and AODA customer services training, also as a way to create meaningful employment. So those were the different like projects that we worked on, to like understand how do we create meaningful employment, especially for individuals that may require, say, like certain schedules, flexibilities in the schedules, right? So that was the intention of us starting Equal Grounds, was for that purpose, to create meaningful work and just to get a good understanding of what it means to create flexible work for people.
Right.
Right. Is this something that's only available in Ontario? Is it national? Are you planning to maybe expand it to the US or?
So, so we've stopped a lot of our projects in the past few years, and mainly because it was my brother and I and a few friends that were, well, the driving forces. And when my brother was battling some mental health challenges a few years ago, I just put on hold on a lot of these projects. So at this moment, it's not available anywhere.
Right.
I do have an intention to restart or start new projects in the coming. At first, it was in the coming months, but with our mom's recent diagnosis of lung cancer, I may have to put some of these dreams on hold until later. So that's the current status of the organization.
Yeah. So, how did you generate funds for Equal Grounds? Because you were saying that it was for meaningful work for people. So how did you end up paying them?
So I would say very little. A lot of it was around building portfolios for the individuals. So it wasn't, when I say meaningful work, it's not paid meaningful work a lot of times. But we were able to acquire some funding from like Trillium, Ontario Trillium Foundation. Some of it for me was self-funded, so out of my own pockets, right? And we would then, like, for the contributors of the organization, like there'd be like gifts that are given, right? Like gift cards and tickets to stuff and like things like that.
Right.
As a way to like give thanks for the work, and it also doesn't impact ODSP in any way,
Right.
Because pretty much all our participants were on ODSP.
Yeah.
So that was the way that we were like managing the like operations. So applying through some funding sources, and then part of it was out of pocket on my own.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So that pretty much covers all the questions that we had. Courtney, do you have any other questions?
So in terms of enables me, you know, how do you choose the particular like content? Like, how do you choose what to highlight?
Well, the intention of Enables Me was for people to share their own experiences, right? In their point of view.
Yeah.
And also sharing things that may be happening in the like space of accessibility.
Right.
So there was a lot of flexibility in what was being posted, right, and published. So we had anything from be it reporting on para sports, right, all the way to like fashion trends in like accessible fashion. And one of our key contributors for many years, her name's Julie. She also lives with ataxia, and she promotes things like chair yoga because she's a chair yoga instructor. So there's like definitely a wide range of content that's been made available, as long as it's personable, that it's the individual's like lived experiences, and showing that, okay, like this is my story, we would publish.
Right. Okay.
Well, I guess thanks, Terrence, for taking the time to cover all this with us. Were there any questions you had about ataxia, or that maybe we could answer?
Not in particular. Like, I guess, like, in terms of for your audience, if you want to find out more about like smart home tech, right?
Yeah.
Or in particular, that particular, like a Novalte system. So you could go to www.novalte, which is NOVALTE.com, to get a sense of like what that particular system offers. But if you also have any particular questions around smart tech or maybe funding sources, feel free to reach out to me directly. You could find me, I guess you could find me on social. You go to my website, www.terrenceho.com, which is TERRENCEHO.com. I guess another area that's like, because I live it as like a caregiver, I don't know how many of you have like siblings and parents that are supporting you. To me, that piece is one that is not talked about often. So if you feel that your parents or your siblings or even some other family that may be like caregivers, right, and that they may need someone to talk to, feel free to reach out to me, because it's definitely something that I'm very close to as a sibling caregiver, to be able to like access support groups and getting the right attention, because sometimes when we as caregivers are in the thick of things, we forget about ourselves. So if anyone like feels that their loved ones that are providing some support may need access to some things like that, feel free to reach out to me too.
And do you know of any equivalents to Novalte in the US?
Companies like Novalte in the US.
That would deal specifically with the needs of the disabled or people who have accessibility issues.
So kind of like what I mentioned earlier, where Best Buy's Geek Squad in the US actually offers that kind of service.
Right.
So what they likely would do, and I don't know the full spectrum of like what they offer fully, but I'm pretty sure once you sign on to the service, this like monthly service, they'd be able to come in and not only provide the maintenance, but also to do an assessment to figure out like what is it that you need within your home too.
Right.
So they would then be able to say like, okay, like if you need smart lights in your home, like we could get you and install the smart lights for you, right? Or smart thermostat. So I would say as like a national company, that would be one major one. There are two other ones. Excuse me. There are two other ones. Off the top of my head, I don't remember, so I'll have to send you the links to them. But they are also smart home companies that are targeting the aging and the disabilities market.
Okay.
Right.
So I could send that to you. I don't remember it right now.
No problem.
Be great. Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks again for taking the time, and I guess have a good night.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hopefully this resource is useful to your membership. And again, feel free to reach out to me if there's any questions around like smart tech, how that could help you. I'm not an occupational therapist, but only have some lived experience, but happy to provide any guidance or answer any questions, because beyond the smart tech side, there's also the assistive tech side too, right? So these could be things like switch devices and things like that. And I do have some like experience with that. Again, not an OT, but having done my research and like got things set up for my brother, I do know different resources to turn to and things to look at. So yeah, and then also any caregiver related stuff. Happy to chat with any of your members about that too.
Okay.
So thank you for having me.
Great. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Terrence.
All right, great seeing you.
Bye.